Oh my gosh, you guys, it's sunny today. It has been cloudy, it has been raining, it has been gross all week. And sure, it's only 36 degrees. However, there is sunshine. Sunglasses are required this morning, and that is just phenomenal. Hopefully it's sunny on Thursday when this gets posted. Anyways, I am on my way to work and had some ideas last night for what I wanted to talk about for the podcast this next Thursday. So I'm just going to record that right now, see what I come up with, and if I have a different idea before then, I'll just save this one for later. So a couple weeks ago, I talked about I did a cleanse update, and I talked a little bit about my experience with disordered eating. And disordered eating sucks. I know people who have been in intensive treatment for an eating disorder, and I would say there's a difference between an eating disorder and disordered eating. I think all of us have struggled with some kind of disordered eating at some point in our lives. But for some of us, that doesn't turn into an eating disorder, and for some of us, it does. I'm not going to talk about eating disorders because that's not my personal experience. And the people that I know who have been in treatment for eating disorders, that's their story to tell. So I'm going to not really go there. But I do want to talk about disordered eating. And so how did I end up with a disordered way of eating? I think that it started probably before I really think it did. Oh man. Evidently it's morning time and I'm just not all the way awake yet. I don't know. Anyway, I've been up for a long time, so you would think I'd be awake. Okay, so in high school, I had a really, really, really bad arthritic flare, about the time I hit puberty, which was middle school, and it stuck around for 4 years, and it was gross. It was awful. I was wearing my mom's sweatpants to school because I couldn't do buttons or snaps or zippers by myself, and having somebody else come into the bathroom with me to help me button or unbutton my pants as a 14-year-old just wasn't an option. So I was struggling with a lot of things. Body image was probably one of them, but I've never really acknowledged that I struggled with body image because that felt like something different than what I struggled with. So to me, a struggle with body image has always been an idea of I look fat, and when I really am not fat at all. And that's not a concept that I had of myself. My concept was, and it wasn't even a concept of I'm ugly when I'm not, but I think there was tones of that because my body was so swollen. And I couldn't, there literally was nothing I could do about it. So these ideas that my body looked different than my classmates, my body couldn't do things that my classmates' bodies could do. I got kicked out of gym class. We had a meeting with all my teachers, and my gym teacher was she literally can't do anything. I'm not going to make modifications. She just needs to take this a different semester. And I was are you for real right now? It ended up working out. It ended up being fine. That guy retired, and my gym teachers from middle school who really understood me and really understood my body came up and really worked with me later on in high school. But that really didn't, help my issues with my body's ability or lack of ability to do certain things, especially when it came to sports. There was times where it was hard to hold my trumpet, and band was literally my life. So marching band was incredibly difficult. Marching at all was challenging, but marching band for like homecoming, like field shows, that was horrific. I don't remember it being horrific, but I remember what my body was like at that time and can't imagine it being anything less than horrific. I do know that my classmates and my director were really, really good about helping me navigate the show, and I know that he gave me less walking parts than he otherwise could have. And just appreciating all of that was really great. And I had people that, help me and take care of me this whole time. But back to like body image, my body was swollen. My knees were the size of softballs. My hands were, about that. Things just didn't work. And I had issues with how my body looked because of the swelling. And I was also taking a medication that would make me nauseous. So I took it once a week, I think. I'm pretty sure I took it once a week. And I initially, when I was little, I had done injections of some medication, and then it became an oral medication later. This medication is like wicked hard on your body. And my dose was a little bit too high, and it was making me sick. So I would take that on whatever morning, and I would be so nauseous that whatever I ate for breakfast, I would vomit. Now, part of it was the medication, but it became this thing that it was like a habit of, in the morning I get nauseous and I don't feel well, and it's hard for my breakfast to stay down. So this became a thing where I would I was vomiting stomach acid almost every morning at some point early in high school, partly because of the medication, partly because of the anxiety. Not that we knew it was anxiety at that point. Didn't figure that out till the last couple years, but there was just so much going on. I was worried that people were going to think that I had an eating disorder because I was vomiting almost every morning, or they'd think I was pregnant. And at that point, I had never had sex, so I definitely wasn't pregnant. And I didn't feel like I had an eating disorder. It wasn't food that was my aversion. It was I just felt so sick. Now, this feeling in the morning of I just feel sick, food, the idea of food was nauseating. I was that ebbed and flowed throughout high school, throughout college, throughout a few years after college. And the few years after college, let's say college, I got a little bit healthier. It wasn't as bad then. But there was a few years after college. So my last semester of school, I started dating a guy. I talked about getting married. We talked about having kids. We talked about spending forever together. We talked about it a lot. And that relationship was really abusive, particularly emotionally, verbally. It was, I was being emotionally abused, and so I was stressed out all the time. My adrenaline pumped 24/7, and I didn't really acknowledge that I was being abused because I'd been taught this idea that if you're not getting hit, it's not abuse, and that's so not true. Abuse comes in a lot of forms, and because my adrenaline was surging all the time, my body was in, my nervous system. Okay, your nervous system is either in parasympathetic or the sympathetic nervous system. And parasympathetic, rest and digest. Sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. And your body doesn't know the difference between a bear coming to attack you and, a flooded bathroom. Okay, your body doesn't know the difference. One of those is not life and death. one of those is. And your body can't tell the difference. And so in my daily life, my body was constantly running in sympathetic fight or flight, and I was not really functional. And because I was in this place of fight or flight all the time, I couldn't rest and digest. And not being able to rest and digest, food was not appealing. My body was like, we don't need food right now. We just need to survive. And food wasn't even like an option, basically. And I just started eating less and less. I had an allergic reaction in February of 2018, and I didn't know what it was to. It was something that I ate pretty regularly. And so like the concept of it being an allergy was like weird because I ate these things all the time. But at this point, my then boyfriend was going through some health struggles, and I was just sticking around to take care of him. I'd kind of checked out. I had started to acknowledge that there was some abuse happening. There were some other things that were going on, and maybe his health struggles hadn't happened yet. Maybe that was in July. Yeah, I don't really remember. I don't remember a lot of that time period, because what happens when you're that stressed is your memory just like shuts it off. And so, I'm sure there's more technical anatomical words for all of that, but basically, I'm in fight or flight. I care about surviving in this moment, and I don't care about remembering anything. So I was working really hard to just survive. There's a really pretty hawk in that tree. It's red tail, and it's gorgeous. Anyways, so my primary focus is survival. My body's like, no food, no rest and digest. This is not a thing that's happening. Memory doesn't happen. And then I had the allergic reaction, so then I cut a bunch of foods, and my then boyfriend wasn't supportive of me cutting some of those foods, and so he would get us dinner that I like couldn't eat. And so what would happen is I would either just eat what he got me, or I wouldn't eat at all. Rather than making myself something else, I would eat and get sick, or I wouldn't eat at all. And that just like wasn't sustainable, right? But I lived that way for an entire year. And in November of the same year, November of 18, I met a guy at a coffee shop who like rocked my world. And we like hung out a couple times. And right after I broke up with said abusive boyfriend, this guy came over for dinner at my apartment, and literally all I had in my house was a head of cauliflower and cranberry juice. That's it. And he was like, what is happening right now? And I was like, yeah, this is my life, basically. Like, I worked at a grocery store, so like I would eat at work, but that's really all I would eat. So I was eating literally only basically one time a day, and, you know, some crackers or something here and there. And he was like, that's a problem. Okay, so before he acknowledged that was a problem, we had gone to the grocery store. We got things we were going to make for dinner. We brought him back to my apartment. He recognizes that I have cauliflower and cranberry juice in my house, and he was like, what is going on? We make dinner, we sit down and eat, and I hesitated before I took my first bite. And he looked me straight in the face and he said, you struggle with food, don't you? And I was like, what? And that was the first time that I acknowledged that I had some severely disordered eating. Like, I literally wasn't eating. And my mom had been telling me this for a long time, but I really wasn't paying attention to anything my mom was saying, because she was also telling me to break up with said abusive boyfriend. And like, I okay, this is going to be a whole different podcast, this is going to be a book. But there was a lot of reasons that I felt like I couldn't break up with said boyfriend. So things got weird, things got dicey, and this guy that came into my life helped me realize just how disordered the eating had become. And from that point forward, I broke up with the abusive boyfriend shortly thereafter, if not before. I think it was after. And we were hanging out all the time, but okay, this is the part of the drive where if I don't pay attention, I miss my road every time. Anyway, I then switched into this pattern of I just have to eat. I just need to consume the calories. I don't need to worry about, okay, I wasn't eating gluten and I wasn't eating much for dairy at that time. And I knew that I needed to stick with those couple things. I couldn't drink milk. I couldn't have ice cream, all that jazz. I'd eat cheese every so often, and that was okay. So bearing in mind those couple of food restrictions, I was okay, and don't worry. I was trying not to eat sugar because sugar was, at that time, I really thought sugar was inflammatory, and that's a whole different story. And what I had to do was I had to be okay, you should, attempt to eat healthy, but you literally just have to consume calories. So that's what I did. I worried about consuming calories. And that became my new habit. And that was fine. I did pretty well. There was days where I struggled. There still are days sometimes where if I'm really stressed, I'm I don't want to eat. I don't want to whatever. Angela, you just need to eat something. You just need to eat something. And now I have a lot more food restrictions. But it's also easier because I've done the work to make sure that I know what I can eat, that I have food all the time that I can eat, and all these kinds of things. And so I've really done a lot of work on this, and this has been 3 or 4 years in the making, because I just want to make sure that now that I'm able to consume the calories that I need without having to be Angela, you need to eat. Then now I can go, okay, hey, I feel hungry, and I can eat something and not feel bad about it or not feel like I'm going to get sick or whatever. And this process was a struggle. And what I've noticed now is that, so I'm trying to alter when I'm eating fats. So I'm not reducing my consumption of calories. I'm adjusting when I eat certain kinds of foods. And because I'm adjusting when I want to eat certain kinds of foods, I need to get into a new habit. So the habit has been, I just need to consume calories. And now it's okay, you've done that and you're good. Your eating has stabilized and you now need to eat in a new pattern. And so now my goal is to adjust what and when. But I notice that now that I've created this habit of I just have to consume calories, I have to now break that habit to move to a healthier habit. And I feel that I just need to consume calories habit can get really dangerous for a lot of people. For me, I really just got to a point where I was regularly consuming calories probably within the last 6 months. And I feel a lot better. I feel like I can do this. So now I'm in a place where I can adjust what those calories are and when they're being consumed. And also, guys, I don't count calories. I never have. I never will. But part of my deal was I wasn't eating. And so I just needed to consume food. So now that I'm beyond that, I can make healthy choices while I'm learning about food and how it can heal my body. So here's to a ton of healing. Here's to massive progress. We can do it, you guys. If you struggle with disordered eating, I would love to be a part of helping you heal on that journey. I'm going to say that eating disorders, like if you struggle straight up, if you struggle with anorexia, you struggle with bulimia, you struggle with binge eating, or whatever other eating disorder is out there, I'm not your girl. I highly recommend you seek professional mental health treatment. It's done a world of good for a lot of people that I have interacted with and have relationships with. But if you're at a place where you're like, okay, I need to just rethink some things, or I just need a way, I need to be eating, like say you need to not eat gluten anymore, but you're concerned that that's going to affect your disordered eating or potential disordered eating, I can help you find things that you can eat that aren't going to take you down that road. And I would be happy to help you make a food plan for yourself, because it's really, really important. Bread is life. Like, you guys, we need to make, food is hard because you need it to survive, and it can be really difficult, especially, I'm going to go out there on a limb here, and I'm going to say especially in America, where the standard American diet is just so hard on your body. So I want to be able to help you guys make food plans for yourselves that are going to really benefit you. So that's my story on disordered eating. I may or may not have further thoughts later, but that's it for now. So I will see y'all soon.